I got a question. Is Wizards of Satan your new official username?
Oh, fuck. Yes, it is.
What the fuck is up? And the mics are hot, the stream is live. I don't want a 9 to 5, but this YouTube shit's in a downward spiral. Hey, don't worry, we're never going viral. Stream like nobody's watching. I got news for you, brother. Fucking nobody's watching. Oh, you said you wanted viewers? Then just already got them. Oh, you said you wanted streamers? Mixer already bought them. And if you hate them, you swat them. But if you don't get killed by cops, beat by bots, or even male and female thoughts, you might just fuck around and land on top. That is, maybe, if you work harder than bro ops. Are you guys ready for me to do a little podcast intro to get us started?
Oh, take me to the river.
Dude, rip your anal beads. Let's go.
Yes, insert the pleasure.
Put me in the canoe.
Okay. Wait a minute.
Hey, man, don't go chasing waterfalls.
Welcome back, everybody, to the ClubFradio.wave podcast, where I am joined by the other half of my family. I think that you guys have probably heard me mention before that, like, my friend family is weirdly divided into sides, just like you often have different sides of your family. And where Chase introduced me to most of my friends on one side, after those friends moved away, I developed a stronger relationship with my friends on this side. And that is predominantly these two gentlemen from the Dad Bod podcast, Scotty Moon and newly renamed Wizards of Satan.
That's right, baby. We're here.
I call these gentlemen Scott and Jaeger, but
Like a drink.
But we have a lot of memories with these guys that we don't always get a chance to talk about because we don't really get a chance to hang out anymore. And I've been excited to have them on the podcast for a while now, and we're finally making it happen. And a big thing that really got this pushed forward is Scott is one of our biggest fans. Scott leaves comments on the podcast all the time. Scott pops into the Twitch chat, and Scott and Chase were having a conversation back and forth in Twitch about musical performances that they had been to. And so this podcast was Chase's idea to have to have a conversation about live music and performance, and I think that's a great idea because a big piece of like what shaped my friendship with these guys was going to shows, watching them perform, watching other people perform with them. And so this is just going to be like the same kind of shit that we normally do, kind of an unstructured conversation. We'll see where it goes, but
music.
But music. It's basically Creed.
But rock.
I guess I'll go ahead and say before we get started, and then we'll just see where it goes, is that outside of the bands that these guys performed in, which you probably don't know about for obvious reasons, like we are also probably going to mention a lot of music that might not have been the shit you grew up with, and that's just how it's going to be. I hope you enjoy it, but we'll see where it goes.
I kind of figured we'd start out by talking about the shows we've been to, and then just let them two talk about their bands and stuff, because I won't have much to say after that point. So,
and I wish I didn't. Jeez,
man.
Wait till I tell you about the last tour we did. It was
I'm
terrible.
Excited. I'm fucking excited.
I was not. Oh my god.
Let's see. I do want to also address the third podcast guest, this little chirpy bird in the background.
Yeah, I can.
I want you to imagine that we're all just hanging out outside on a nice summer day. Here's a good place that we could possibly start. Everybody in this podcast today, with the exception of me, was in band in school at one point. Am I right?
Yes.
Correct.
Oh, yes.
Maybe we can start us off with some of your tales from band.
Okay, so getting back into Satan. Scott, I think you should take the reins on this one.
Okay, I'll do that. So, band. Where did I even play? I played clarinet and I played snare in band. I was only in band for like 2 years though. I was in band in 8th grade and 9th grade. Yeah.
I was in the band a lot longer. I was in the band until like the last half of my senior year, and I was just I got so bored with everything.
I used to go meet you at football games when you would play. So
definitely thought I was cool then. I was not. But I played saxophone the whole time, so I was pretty much a G.
I was pretty much a G.
We were in band at the same time, right, Jaeger?
Yeah, we were.
Okay. I was just making sure because I didn't really know you then, but I kind of knew you, not like I do now. So like,
Yeah.
it's hard to remember, and that was 50 years ago. So
Yeah, because we're pieces of old dirt shit.
I also went to a different high school than these two guys too. I didn't go to the
They
same high
actually
school.
wouldn't let Scott come to our school.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me come there. So yeah,
We're
thanks.
like, no,
Thanks
dude,
for that.
fuck you, bro. So he's like,
Yeah.
all right, deuces. I'm just gonna go sit on my couch and listen to the Used.
I played trombone like an idiot,
Like
And-
a baddie.
Body trombones are cool. Come on now.
Come on.
Yeah,
But,
Jacob played a trombone.
Yeah.
That's true. But
Oh, good. So I mean,
I loved band. I had a blast with it until our band director left, the one who got basically everyone in that band involved in band because he was fucking awesome.
then he was
And
like, "Well,
then-
my son's done, so fuck you guys."
Yeah, and then he
Yeah.
left, and like the majority of that whole band was like, "Well, fuck this shit."
They
We're
were
out.
like, all right, let's con the 7th graders into moving up. We'll
Yeah.
give you a college free ride. Okay.
Yeah, that shit sucked once he left, and I bailed. A lot of other people bailed. Dad didn't want to let me bail because of how much the fucking trombone and shit was.
Oh man,
But I-
same. That's what happened to me too.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I
man.
eventually talked him into it because I was like, I don't enjoy this no more. Like, this sucks dick. Like, this is terrible.
You gotta hear me out, Daddy Steamboat.
Yeah.
You gotta get me good. Oh Lord, fuck the marching band. I had way more fun just playing in like band,
Yeah.
because that's like when I was first in a marching band. Like obviously I wanted to play in like a punk band, but I would just be like, I'm in a band. And they'd be like, oh, what's your band name? And I'd be like, and just like make up a band name off the top of my head because I wasn't really in a band, but I wasn't technically lying. I was like called the Sex. Just something stupid like that. You're called the Sex. Awesome. And that was in like 9th grade, so I was a fool.
All right. Well, let's move on past the boring shit of high school and all this. So I'm gonna go ahead and start you off with probably a harder question for you two because you've been to a hell of a lot more shows than I have. But who's your favorite band you've seen live? Like who just fucking killed it and you'd like to go see again?
Oh man, Kyle.
I've
tough
got
one.
so many. Like top of my head, number one is the Foo Fighters. The Foo Fighters. There's just something about a Foo Fighters gig. I've seen them multiple times. It's something about the energy of the gig that they bring something to the table that no one else does, or no one else. Most people never have. It's just some kind of energy, some kind of experience that they bring that it makes it more of a show and it makes it like an actual event in your life.
Yeah, and I
Like
I
you
totally
can't
agree.
look at your phone.
Yeah, you really can't. I've seen them one time ever. Actually, I think it might have been the last show I've been to. I went with our friend Huffy, and that show.
Of course, of course.
yeah, of course. Only band he knows, but
So, yeah.
but they were absolutely phenomenal. Like it was fucking amazing.
Like 3 to 3.5 hours of just fucking rock and roll. It's awesome.
I remember, speaking of going to shows with Huffy, that's actually why I ever even had a Facebook to begin with. Because back in the heyday of MySpace, people were getting Facebooks left and right, and I didn't really want one. And I found out that Huffy had gone to a Muse show. And I'm really into Muse, and I think that seeing Muse live would be awesome.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And Huffy was bragging about that, and I was like, dude, I would have gone. I would have loved an invite. And he was like, well, I said on Facebook, hey, if anybody wants to come with me, let me know. I was like, well, I'm not on Facebook. And he was like, well, that's why you're an idiot. So
We're not friends.
yeah, I got one then. Oh my God, Huz listening in.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. I'm not muted either.
Oh man.
Forgot.
Oh,
I forgot that you have privilege.
oh, look at Daddy.
All right, Scott, you got one?
My favorite. Okay. So my thing is, I've never really seen a huge band live. I've seen Paramore. That's probably the biggest that it gets for me.
Really?
Still pretty big though.
Yeah.
Yeah, still pretty big.
My favorite show I've ever been to was probably a band that most of you haven't heard of or don't like. Is probably in Oxford, and it was Manchester Orchestra, actually. Yeah, Kyle doesn't like Manchester Orchestra because he's a dickhead, but they're
I
really,
don't.
They're a really good band, and you guys should listen to them.
Kyle hates everything though.
I have not heard of this band, so I will have to give that a shot later.
Yeah.
What kind of genre is it?
Oh man, it's just like chill, rocky, indie, folky almost. They're from Atlanta, so it's like Atlanta rock with like some folk, and they have backgrounds in like church choirs, so they harmonize together a lot over like really heavy shit. Or not really heavy, not metal, but like heavy rock.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it sounds really cool. If you like that kind of thing, if you don't, But they're probably my favorite I've seen live though. And Paramore was incredible live. Haley Williams is like an incredible vocalist. But yeah, I've never really been to any huge shows. It was mainly just like scene shit, like whatever was popular in the scene at the time. So it was
some of
like,
those were really good.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time that we saw Through the Eyes of the Dead in Tupelo, that was like monumental for me.
Blow your dick off
twice.
I've only been to, I think, 3 live, like big live shows. One was when I was damn near a baby, and it was Garth Brooks.
Dude, I'd love to see Garth Brooks.
I think
yeah.
I think we've all had that experience where we'll say, well, I've never done this. And our parents will be like, yeah, you did. You did when you were 2 years old. Don't you remember?
Right.
It's just like,
my mom told me that whenever I was younger, we went to see the Temptations, and I was like, oh, fuck,
That's
I don't remember
fucking
that. So,
A, dude. That's awesome.
I don't remember it.
Yeah,
I don't remember
that
it.
is awesome.
Yeah. So I guess that's probably the biggest band, but I don't remember it. So.
Yeah, of course.
My first gig ever was actually Steppenwolf, and they were like the first band to ever coin the term heavy metal. So
awesome.
Fuck yeah.
So
that was pretty cool. Mom ruled.
First show I ever went to was Def Leppard 2 Below.
Def Leppard,
Daddy,
baby.
let's go.
I think Mark went to that one.
Probably.
Because I think Mark talked about that for like years. He wore that same tight ass shirt for years.
I still have that shirt.
I'll wear it.
You should wear it.
But now to answer my own question to you guys, I think my favorite band I've ever seen live was probably Newfound Glory, and you were with me. It was at Minerva.
Newfound rules, bro.
Dude, I've
what a shit show that was.
That was a shit show, and we can talk about that in a minute for sure.
Did you hear that guy went to jail?
Yes, I did.
We'll bring it up.
I've seen them one more time since then in Birmingham.
It was perfect.
Yeah, it was in like a weird retro arcade. Like they had Super Nintendos and 64s and shit set up everywhere. And then
when was that?
And then you went to like the back. Fuck, I'd have to go look. It's been at least 4 years ago, probably long. But it was a fucking amazing show, dude. I can't remember their lead singer's name, but
Gordon.
Yeah, he was super duper sick, and they nearly had to call off the whole thing. And he finally came out and was like, "Man, I've been chugging Dayquil for like 4 hours, and we're gonna do this shit." And they come out and played, and it was everything.
Oh man, that's cool. That's
seeing
really cool.
smells, man. I like it.
I've seen Newfound with Kyle as well. We saw them in Nashville. I think we saw them like twice.
I've seen Newfound, I think 7 times.
Damn, I wish, dude.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's like all I did when I was younger. Like, I was that kid, and just that's what I did with all my money is I went to gigs like that, just see little punk bands and shit.
Yeah,
that's amazing though.
Meanwhile, I've still not been to a show that I was just like, oh my God, that was incredible. Because, like, outside of the one I went to when I was a baby, the second one I went to was to see Skillet with Chase.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hey, that was a good show.
It was an excellent show. Skillet was great, but they were the only ones that were great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, your girlfriend at the time was the biggest bitch I've ever seen her be.
Oh my God, dude! I don't even want to talk about that.
Okay, we won't talk about that. And then,
but yeah, Skillet was fucking amazing.
And it's funny too because like if any of you listening to this are not familiar with Skillet, they are a Christian band, but who gives a fuck? Because they're just it doesn't really even matter. Like I kind of don't understand why they even qualify themselves as a Christian band because they've got secular songs and they're good.
Right.
So like,
I've seen them one more time since then too, and it was at who was with them? It was like Stained or somebody. I went with our friend Kenny, but he got like they weren't the main act, obviously. I can't remember who else was there, but he got up there and he played some songs and he started to get really preachy. It was really weird, but like
he was give it up now.
Yeah, he was getting that way, and you could tell he was really losing the crowd, and he eventually backed off.
Shut the fuck up, go. Play the next song.
Yeah, it was fucking weird.
We're ready to hear Behemoth.
Bring out Whitechapel.
All right.
And then after that, the only other big show I'd been to is the one that Huh mentioned in the chat here was no, it wasn't Slipknot. No, it was Disturbed. Yeah, I went and saw Disturbed when
cool.
with I think Chase was there. I know for sure. I was with Chase, and the Disturbed wasn't even my favorite part of it. It was Skindred.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Skindred.
Oh yeah.
Opened for him.
That was an honest one right there. Just on another note, I was thinking about this as we were talking about it. One time you and I actually went to see the Proto Men in Birmingham.
Yes.
And actually that gig itself, just to get real for a minute, that gig itself is when my wife and I first decided that we liked each other and decided to go out on a date. So thank you, Proto Man, and thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, that was a really nice time because I was slowly discovering I liked the Proto Men, and nobody else really liked the Proto Men. But I was trying to figure out who would go with me, and Jaeger was like, "Yeah, I'll totally go." I was like, "You fucking kidding? You hate them too? Are you gonna?" He was like, "Yeah, totally." But I think at some point he and his future wife both just dipped out, and I was just in there like having a great old time, and they were establishing the foundation of a lifelong relationship outside. So, and
I was, to be honest with you, and you can ask her this, I was kind of calming down at first because that's when that spice shit had gotten popular. I am not supporting drug use, people, but I used to really support it, and I had smoked that spice when we got down there, and I was like, fuck, how am I going to get these guys home? So there you go.
I remember now, I have actually been to one other big show, and the same thing happened. We all went to see fucking Skrillex. We had gone to see fucking Skrillex because at the time I showed you Skrillex and you were like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." And this is before this was before everybody just collectively decided that Skrillex and dubstep were the fucking stupidest thing of all time. But when I showed him Skrillex for the first time, and he was like, "Oh my god, this is like techno but heavy," and I was like, "Wow, I actually appreciate that assessment of it. Yeah, that's what it is." And he was watching them, and he was like, "Oh, I know that queer," like essentially, because
I was like, I said, "That's Sonny fucking Moore."
Yeah, dude. Wow.
I think it was Courtney that said that. She was like, "That's Sonny fucking Moore."
Yep, and they knew him from First to Last, which was so funny because I didn't even know about From First to Last. But we went to see that show. It was such a drag for such a long period of time because like there's only so much techno and dubstep I can take, and they opened with every techno and dubstep band they could fucking find,
and only one of them was worth a shit, and it was that Zed guy.
Yeah. And finally, like, Skrillex comes out, and I think at some point before that, Jaeger was like, "Hey, man, no hate. This is stupid. Like, I'm gonna go sit in the car with Courtney." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, man, that's fine. Like, that's no hate." And then later, you were like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm not against drugs or anything, but like, I don't really go to a show to see people shooting up heroin in the bathroom." So I was
that's
like,
what happened, bro.
Dude, they were though. They straight up fucking were.
Got transported back to Seattle 1994 within minutes of that gig.
Well,
I mean, now don't get me wrong, part of me was totally on board, but there was another part of me that was like, you know what, like I just can't right now. You know what I'm saying? Not a good decision ever again in my life.
The one thing I remember about that show is there was a girl kind of like in near where I was standing, and she was just like all loopy dancing around, just passing out these little pieces of paper, and she come to me and started to give me one. I was like, "What is this?" She's like, "It's acid." And I was like, "What the fuck? Okay, no, I don't want it. Go away."
He's going to space. We're about to make this place melt.
Yeah, I was absolutely a teetotaler then. So like I've never really done drugs, but like I didn't drink at all either. And so at one point there were two guys sitting next to me, standing next to me during the show, and they were talking about how to find somebody. They were looking for somebody, and the guy, while using me as a visual aid, he was like, "Well, he kind of looks like this guy. He's kind of wearing a shirt like him," grabbing my shirt. "His hair's kind of like his. Hey, are you him?" And I was like, "Am I who?" And they were like, "We're looking for the guy that's got Molly." And I was like, "No, I don't know who Molly is." And they were like, "Oh man, you're cool. Do you want to get high with us after the show?" And I literally just went, "No, but thank you."
What a nice guy.
Like that was so, I remember I was glowing all the way home because I was just like, I don't do drugs, but what a courteous thing.
What a nice guy. That's one thing, man. That's one thing I will say for I guess I would say my people. Very courteous.
Yeah.
Oh man, in the chat said, "I saw Emery, August Burns Red, and Under Oath in Memphis at the New Daisy. The bathrooms were so crowded, piss was all in the floor and shit."
That
was probably before.
That's a
They
gig
probably
right
had
there.
the piss on the floor before the gig even started, bro. That's common courtesy. Southern
Dude, I used to
hospitality.
listen to Emery all the time. I love that
Oh
shit.
yeah, August Burns Red too, man. They're super tight.
Always, still are. Crazy.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Is accurate. There is piss on the floor in every public bathroom. You go
Where
into
was
any
that?
Hardee's
Was
and
that
you're
at
like
the New
sliding.
Daisy? That's probably at the New
Yeah.
Daisy or something.
That's what he said.
What a
Okay.
claim. Go in any Hardee's.
Yeah.
You're sliding.
Or, bro, it's true. Those old guys, because the only people that go to Hardee's, man,
Are
is
old
like,
people.
yeah. And they're always complaining. They're always like, I didn't get enough gravy on my biscuit. Well,
My biscuit's too
you guys all come at one time, and none of you can chew anything, so everyone's getting gravy. You fucking asshole.
Just pouring gravy down their fucking throat.
Oh, I would watch it, dude. That's that porno premium shit. Pouring gravy down my throat. On down to Sausage Town, boy.
Oh, my fucking
Oh
God.
man.
Well, shit on these walls.
All of
Oh, every goddamn wall.
Chase.
Man, what? This is what happens when you let Scott and I come over here.
idiots.
Because for anyone listening that has never heard of our podcast, it is basically the garbage you're listening to right now, but for like an hour and a half straight.
So
Now,
if you think this is okay, pop on over.
yeah, now's a good enough time as any to go ahead and plug it. So give them all the information they need to find it.
Oh, okay. So our podcast is called, I should have practiced this. Our podcast is
Nah,
called the Dad Bod Podcast. You can find us on any podcasting app, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, Podcast Addict, Podcast Dildo, whatever they are. I don't know. I don't care how you're listening to it, but please check it out if you think you want to. If you don't, that's cool too, man. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say.
That's perfect.
We don't really
that's perfect,
when
man.
we first started out, we did like true crime, but we quickly realized that true crime is not very interesting, or at least to me it's not, because this sounds really bad, but bro, I just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't gonna solve this stuff. I'm an idiot, and,
Well,
and I'm not even gonna do good research.
I listened to
Well,
most
now
of
just
your.
talk about just talking about one thing too is
Yeah.
kind of, it gets a little old. So
I listened to most
we
of the
talked to
most of the
aliens.
episode where you talked about swapping to aliens, and one big point that you made that's not your fault at all is that podcasts as a genre are just oversaturated with true crime. Like there's
Yes.
there's no shortage of nobody
They
is going, I'm going to start listening to a true crime podcast and finding Dad Bod first. So like
It's not gonna happen ever.
yeah, so I completely respect the hell out of that. I know these guys started talking about aliens, and they're a delight to talk to you about anything. So check it out.
yeah,
That's what they tell us.
you could tell us what to talk about. Shit, we don't care.
Yeah, that would be a lot easier. Hell, you could type it up for us.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. We'll just talk.
Your shit word for word. We are puppets. We are clay. Mold us. Said that to
Mold
my
us.
wife earlier.
Speaking of like fucked up wife quotes, I know this is off topic, but like I think that we were just laying the bed. I don't think we were even trying to get sexy. And she said verbatim, "The warmth has left your penis."
I think that's cute.
I was just like, is that how you leave me? Is this the end
Is
of
this
this
where
Harlequin
we're done?
romance? Like,
Jesse got that cold dick.
Freezer
Hey,
dick.
babe, you better get that dick warm again.
You're not sending me to the cooler.
It's going to be a freeze.
All right, everybody, chill.
oh man.
Wow.
I could
Okay.
do Arnold punts all night.
To further transition, then, Chase, is there anything else about watching live performances you want to talk about?
Let's see. Well, we covered our favorite ones live. Who's the worst one you've ever seen?
This is a
Oh,
good.
baby.
This is a good fucking question.
You guys, someone's gonna have to start, because I'm gonna have to think, because I've seen some
Man, I'm gonna have to
shitty
think too,
goddamn
because
bands.
we have seen some garbage for sure.
Okay.
Dude, I've been
I'll
in
tell
some of those.
I'll tell you mine real quick. I don't know the name of the band. There's some local place or local band around Huntsville, whatever. I went with our friend Matt about a year ago now, and we went and seen the Ataris. And they had some random local bands opening up. But anyway, these guys played the worst fucking cover of "In the End" by Linkin Park that I've ever heard in my fucking life. Like, I nearly had to leave. It was so bad. I was just like, Matt, this sucks. Like, we're gonna have to stand outside and smoke until the Ataris come on, because this is garbage.
Matt, did you bring a gun?
Never cover Linkin Park. It's not
That's right, dude.
We were talking about that earlier. I think Chase, it's because Chase had already mentioned it on the stream, but like Linkin Park's one of those bands that you better be goddamn sure you're gonna nail it. Like, you don't need to try that.
Man.
Yeah.
You can't. Just don't even try.
Meanwhile, anytime I think of Linkin Park and cover in the same sentence, it's not a cover of Linkin Park. It's Linkin Park covering just about anything
Covering
else
something.
and turning it into this haunting, beautiful rendition that I'd never expected.
The only Linkin Park cover I know of that's any good is that '80s version that I showed you that one time, Jesse.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's the only one I've ever heard that was good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. They and separately they do a cover of "Rolling in the Deep" that they did at a live show that was beautiful. It was really cool. But yeah, that's another band that I wish I had the chance to see live. I know we all at some point.
Oh man,
I've seen them one time.
Yeah,
I've seen them. Awesome. I saw them twice. I think one time I was with you. I think I was with.
Is that when Drew nearly got in a fight with the dude stealing his shirt?
Okay.
We went with Rhett.
Yeah, so we were definitely together. That was it.
Yeah.
He took that dude's shirt and dude followed him out to Daddy's SUV.
Yeah.
I feel like I need context for this, or is that all the context?
No, it's not. Because, I mean, halfway through one of the bands, we looked over and Drew was making out with some Marilyn Manson-looking person.
Fuck, I forgot about that. But he did.
I'm not stereotyping them because they were goth. I'm saying that because they legitimately looked like a midget Marilyn Manson.
I will go ahead and let you guys know, especially because I put out a video today that is me telling a story about the other Drew in our family. And for the sake of keeping things clear, if anybody's out there trying to document the bro-op lore, this is not the same Drew we're talking about. And I don't mean figuratively. This is a different individual.
Yeah.
Figuratively.
Yeah.
That's a good point, though. But, like, at some point, I think after Linkin Park finishes, obviously they were the last band, we go to the bathroom, or a couple of us do, and we're like pissed, and obviously it's crowded. Well, while Drew's standing there, there's a shirt just sitting on the urinal. Now, you look in today's world, and you're not touching that motherfucker. It don't matter if it's mine. You're like, nah, bro, I didn't bring my gloves. I'm going home. But he was just like, fuck. So he grabbed it, threw it over his shoulder, and then more than likely took his shirt off and walked out of the arena with a cigarette lit. That's just what he did.
Yeah.
And we walked to the car, and while we're walking there, he's like, bro, I can't believe I got this badass shirt. You know, and I didn't pay shit for it, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, this other just like white trash guy, man, comes around the corner and like throws him against the SUV or some shit, and then says he's going to like beat him up because he stole his shirt. It was crazy.
It's crazy.
Go a little further though.
It was
See what we were working with, you know.
Yeah, it was something else. But also, before we move on from that show, that's one of the other crazier bands I've ever seen was Story of the Year.
Story of the Year.
They opened for Linkin Park, or one of the opening bands for that show, and those motherfuckers are crazy. Like, dude was like getting up on his amp, doing backflips off of it, still playing his guitar.
Oh,
he was like baseball
they were
swinging, throwing it, to his fucking like roadie, and he would catch it and throw him another guitar. It was ridiculous. Like,
Dude, their choreography is crazy.
Dude, they were hype, man.
I mean, that was a good gig though. POD played that too.
Yes, they did.
Hoobastank.
And Hoobastank,
Oh wow,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, the first time I saw Linkin Park, it was their first Project Revolution tour, and the opening band was Blindside, and I really liked Blindside. And then it was Mudvayne, and then it was Exhibit, and then it was Linkin Park. I didn't understand that part. Crap, just because he was crap. Exhibit
You
sucks,
guys thought
bro.
of a bad one yet?
I'm trying to think because, like, to be honest, if I was going to go with, like, a bad show that I'd seen, I'd probably go with one of the bands that I saw going to see Yeager and Scott perform. But But the thing is that all of that just fucking blends together for me. Like, I do have some standout memories of going to those shows, but not of particularly bad performers. I feel like one time we went to see a show and some friends of yours were doing their first band performance and they just had several failed starts and just said, all right, we're done. Like,
yes. That was I don't remember the band name, and I ain't trying to drop names, but damn it, I will. That was a dude named Colby's band because he kept hyping it up, and they were talking so much shit online. Their drummer was talking about having a drum battle, and I was playing drums in a deathcore band at the time, so like it was taking everything I had just to, keep it going because I suck. And I'm like, dude, I can't do a drum battle. Well, they get on stage to play right before the drum battle, and I realized I should have done it because they started every song with like 30 seconds, and then they would fall apart and start another song. And then by the end of it, it turned into Colby, the guitar player, just yelling "fuck" over and over at their drummer. It kind of like Metallica, Some Kind of Monster. It was pretty similar.
I definitely remember that.
Huss said like his least favorite gig was Coheed.
I've never seen Coheed. I've listened to Ian talk about Coheed, but I've never seen Coheed.
Are they bad live?
I know.
I don't like Coheed personally.
I'm not a big fan.
Every one of their songs.
I respect them. I respect what they do. I think their guitar, or at least their musical section, is phenomenal. I think his vocals are good. Obviously, it's a flavor thing. You have to like that flavor.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
to get into it. But they're a solid band. It's just not my cup.
It's just not your cup of tea.
For me, man. If you guys are cool with it, my least favorite band to ever see live is Fall Out Boy. I did not go for Fall Out Boy. I was never a big Fall Out Boy fan. I like Grand Theft Autumn, like whatever record that one was on. It was before From Under the Court Tree.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were okay. But when Blink got back together after they broke up, and they got back together on the reunion tour in 2009, that was going to be my first time to actually get to see them. So obviously I had to go. And I think the opening bands, it was like All American Rejects, Asher Roth, Fall Out Boy, and then Blink. And when I got there, I got there late, and Fall Out Boy was playing. Dude, it was just the most god awful shit I've ever heard in my life. Not because I don't like them. It's just, bro, like I get, like they got where they are because they're good at what they do, and I can appreciate that and respect that. But if you ever make me listen to that again, I will shove every dick in my ear that I can. It was that bad. Like it was so bad. Okay, so I've been in a lot of bands that scream, and screaming is not something that's weird to me. I know some people still don't like it, but like I prefer my vocals to be nothing but like guttural screams. That's just who I am. But it was really lame to me when the last song they played, I don't know if you guys know the song, but it's called Saturday. And in that song, Pete Wentz has the screaming part. Well, when that part comes up at the very end of the show, this dude drops his bass, gives it to some studio guy that's playing with him on stage for a second, and he puts a hoodie on. He is not wearing one. He puts one on, zips it up to then look like a scene kid, puts on a bandana, and starts to scream. And I got extremely offended. I was like,
that is
first off,
offensive.
that's what me and my friends did back in 2005, you pecker sucker,
And we'll
whatever.
kick your ass.
I couldn't even think about my offensive remark, and when he puts it on and all these like little kids are like, oh my God, he's so fun. I'm just like, I just want to bash his head in with love.
I feel you so hard.
Well, I'm not. It's pretty soft over here.
I do. That's so out of context, but I do think it would be delightful to have some sort of stream alert of Jaeger just going, it's pretty soft over here.
Hey, man, do that. I will give you my voice and my loins.
Oh, I can tell you two more real quick that I really didn't fucking enjoy live at all. It was Asking Alexandria and Black Veil Bride. They fucking suck. Like, I hate both of those bands.
Oh, man. Grits used to always talk about it. People are like, I love Black Veil Brides. Shut the fuck up and get out of my car.
Who was that, Kyle? Who was that at Warp's tour that we went to that was so bad?
Oh, man, there were a lot. Scary Kids was terrible.
This was like a bigger band, though, bigger than them. I can't remember what their name was, though. Damn it, they were so bad. The red jumpsuit apparatus. That's what it was.
Oh, apparatus.
Yeah, they were awful live. That's probably my worst because they tried to hit that that like note in the chorus, and it killed me inside. And it's so loud because we're on the main stage. And it's just like it's
Noise making your
Yeah.
ears bleed.
Yeah, that was awful. That's my least favorite. That hurt me inside.
Huh has a good question for us. He says, "Who was surprisingly good when you seen that you didn't expect to be?" I guess.
Oh man, for me
Ooh.
the Proto Man.
Yeah, that's a good one for you.
Yeah, I remember.
Which I kind of go for it, Daddy.
Hell yeah. Thank you, baby. I remember whenever we went, Jaeger was mostly just going for the trip, and like nobody else really liked them or their style. And one thing that I have said to people 1,000 times before that I will continue to say to people is that because of them being sort of a concept band, like their first and second albums are entirely different stylistically, and their second album is just better. But even that album jumps all over the place in terms of genre, so it's really hard to get a feel for what you're to expect. But the big thing I remember you saying is you were just standing there watching them set up, and you were just like, "Damn, they've got good equipment. They know what they're doing," and you were kind of mesmerized by that, and you were still trying to find something to criticize about it on the way back, because you were just like, their drummer just doesn't know how to drum. I remember you saying that on the way home, and me, this was even worse from me because I don't know anything about music. I just remember being like, Kyle, not everybody has to have double bass and like rolls in it. like
It's true though. It is very true.
But like,
I should have listened to that sooner.
I think 3 or 4 weeks
me
later, you were like, Jesse, I need to come over. And I was like, okay. And I thought something was wrong. And you were just kind of shaking, and you were like, all right, so I need you to know
I'm an alcoholic.
that I've been listening to the Proto Men. And I just keep watching their music videos like on loop, and Courtney will be like, why are you listening to that? And he's just like, because I like it and I don't know why.
Word for word, what happened for real.
And I remember you were just tremendously enamored with their production. Like they just
Yes.
and it's because
Okay, so yeah, that's a talented fucking band. I remember when you guys were listening to them, and I was with Kyle, and he was just like, "Dude, these guys are fucking good." And I was like,
They're really
they
good.
are fucking good. They're just so talented.
I feel like
They can play anything. It's crazy.
it's very much exactly the Coheed and Cambria situation, in that the two people that do most of their vocals are that one guy who always sounds like it's like not everybody's going to be into that, and the other one doing the vocals is that literal like classic operatic singer woman that they have, and it's just like not everybody's going to be into that. But you see him live, I don't know what shoes he puts on when it's time to record, but they suck, because like he gets into a completely different mindset for recordings that he does for live performances. And the way he belts out for live performances, I'll never be able to replicate how watching that made me feel.
Right. That kind of music's made for live performances. That's what they love. That's what they write their music to do. So
yeah. So it's
really good live.
My father had a job. Man and machines. Good old Logan.
I think the band that surprised me the most, and it's because I hadn't really heard of them until they were on stage, was
Ooh.
Hailstorm was really good live.
Yeah, I bet. When did you see them?
They were at that Skillet show I was talking about.
Okay, cool.
But I've had several bands that I went to see. And then the bands that came on before them actually like stole the show for me. Yeah, it's several. So
Yeah.
and,
That happens a lot with deathcore.
yes, it does. It does.
Sick Puppies. That happened with me with them too.
Yeah.
Yep. The first time I ever saw the Foo Fighters, it was on the Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace tour, and I actually went with Huffy. And the opening band that night was Against Me. And it was one of Against Me's first stops ever in America. And from the moment that they first started, I fell in love with them. I had no idea who they, were going to be. I was ready for Jimmy Eat World, who was playing next. But it was once Against Me started, there was just something about his vocals, man, that just roped me in.
Yeah, still haunting. Still grabs you to this day. I remember having the same feeling when I listened.
So good. Sorry, guys. I'm just looking at this setup of Discord just because, like I told you, I'd never used it really. And a lot of places that I go to for podcast advice and shit, they always reference Discord, and it looks a lot cooler than anything I could have.
Yeah, it's cool as shit.
Yeah,
it is.
People in our Discord make fun of me a lot for constantly changing things, but I honestly haven't done it in a while, because every time they launch a major update, it helps me organize this shit a little bit better.
Cool. Yeah, this made me think. You used to reorganize the magnets on your fridge a lot.
They'll love hearing that.
That sounds right.
So I would show up at his pad, and usually I was probably drunk, and I would just show up randomly in the middle of the night, and he'd be making new magnets, and I'd be like, "Holy crap, you got Mario on your fridge?" And he's like, duh.
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah, I kept those for a long time. Yeah.
I remember all the random food combinations we throw together because we didn't have any money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I remember Jesse making cheesy rice.
Oh,
Yeah.
Chase brought up my cheesy rice the other day and was like, I bet you haven't made that in a long time.
I bet you haven't.
I haven't. I have not.
I bet you have.
I've been making a lot of good stuff lately, though. I've been my favorite thing to make right now is chicken tikka masala. I really like that. It's an Indian dish, and it's as simple as go to store, buy tikka masala sauce, cook chicken in it. And then make some fucking rice, and we've got a instant pot now, which has just a rice setting. It's just like put rice in, we'll handle the rest.
My parents recently got one of those, and they said it's fucking awesome for rice.
Dude, everybody loves those things. I guess I need to get like an Instapot or like something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. And so I'm super into Pearl Jam now. That's something I was never into.
I do have one final question.
Okay.
For as far as big shows go, anyway, who's someone you haven't seen that you want to see?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a great one.
Oh man, is a good one. Well, I'm at a crossroads because I can't see them. It wouldn't be the best gig ever, but I would have to say Nirvana. I want to see Kurt on stage. You know, the more I got into playing for myself, and I mean no disrespect, I mean I've got Nirvana blasted on my arm, you know, so whatever, kiss my ass. But Kurt was not a great guitar player, not a good vocalist, not a good lyricist. There wasn't anything super good about him other than being at the right place at the right time, and the explosion that he had from being there. I wish I could have experienced the kind of local gig that I grew up dreaming about being part of, you know.
You know, a conversation that you had with me kind of recently about Nirvana, not recently, god damn, that's how fucked up my brain is, because this had to have been 10 years ago. But
I'm there too.
Yeah, a conversation that you had with me a while back about Kurt and Nirvana and grunge finally recently kind of clicked with me and helped me to understand, because for the past several years, I've been like, I don't know what the hell has happened to rap. Like, I don't understand what has happened to it to make it so low effort. And I know why. We're going through the rap grunge renaissance. It's like exactly what happened with grunge. Like people just being like, I don't have to be talented. I'm going to express what I'm going to express, and people are going to like it. And that's exactly what we're going through with rap, with people doing less and less lyrically, but people still like it. And so I guess more power to them. But
I mean, they're throwing their feelings out there. It's less technical, more. This is what I can do. This is how I can get it out.
Yeah.
So
you know, it's pretty cool. Whatever, man. Travis Scott, it's lit.
Still love Travis Scott. So you know.
What about you, Scott? Who do you want to see?
Yeah, Fozzy,
probably.
baby.
I've never seen the Foo Fighters, so just knowing how good they are live. I've seen several live DVDs or whatever DVDs. I've seen several live shows and stuff on YouTube and stuff. Exactly. I'm so old, but I've seen how good they are, and I would love to see them live.
Yeah, and that's a good choice, because like Jaeger said, it's like a different experience watching Dave Grohl.
It's a religious experience, bro.
I mean, dude,
it's crazy.
Which I've seen Foo quite a few times as well, but one of the last times we saw him was when his leg was broken and he was in the throne made of broken guitars. The fact of the matter is that I went to see a band whose lead singer, who is known to run around, was basically handicapped at that show, and he was still the liveliest motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. That says something about a person. That says when you go watch a band and they look like they're just not really into it, you know that they're there for the money, because the money, if you can make it to that level, is an extreme turnaround. But then you look at somebody like Dave Grohl, who breaks his leg, gets some fucking shots, and immediately finishes the gig while his leg has just been broken. Like, that says something about loving your job. You know, that's somebody that uses music the way it needs to, you know.
Right. And that's why I would love to see them, that passion. I would love to see that. But I can't really think of another band alive.
Metallica. You want to see Metallica.
You know, it's so funny.
You want to see Metallica 10 years ago.
Yeah, I want to see Metallica again. But
it's so funny that you bring Metallica up, because for the longest time during our friendship, I did not respect or appreciate Metallica the same way that many of you guys do. And now I'm sitting here going, no, I'd probably want to see Metallica. And it's because so many of the bands that I put higher than them are not bands I really care about seeing live. Like, for example, example, I'm into a lot of electronic music. I would probably really fucking enjoy seeing Carpenter Brute live because that's fucking heavy as shit. But like, I keep going back to like, well, what's some more classic hard rock shit that would just be like a fucking experience,
something you want to see live.
Yeah. 5 years ago I would have said Daft Punk, because we found the Daft Punk Alive tour album a year after they did that tour. Like, Chase and I weren't really into Daft Punk until like it was too late, and then they never toured again because it was already a pain because they only toured every 10 years.
Yeah.
And then they just didn't do it again, which, no harm, no foul. One of you's been going deaf for the past decade, so I get it,
Yeah.
But, but that's another thing, is that going to see any sort of electronic genre of music live, I am not dismissing them as performers, but what are you really out there for? Because you're not out there for a musical performance. You're out there to be immersed in some of the most powerful speakers you've ever been immersed in while people fucking do drugs around you. So I think it would probably have to be some actual performers, like somebody like Caravan Muse. God, yes, Muse, or like Caravan Palace. I recently got into dear God, I forgot what the genre is called. Artemis knows what I'm talking. Recently got into God and
hey,
oh no,
electro swing. Thank you, Artemis. So I got into electro swing probably a year or two before getting together with Candy, and she was also into electro. If I were to have the opportunity to see Caravan Palace live, that would fall, and it would be a very unique experience. That's kind of like time travel in a way, because they're a modern spin on older.
Yeah. If I had to pick one that I haven't seen that doesn't do tours anymore, I would probably pick AC/DC, because that was like my first album I ever owned was Highway to Hell. So like, I would love to see AC/DC. And then if I had to pick like a modern band, I've seen most of the bands live that I like, but I haven't seen Fall Out Boy. I'd like to see them, or like Panic at the Disco.
Oh yeah,
because Brendan Urie is fucking amazing.
If we're going by the first albums we ever owned, then I guess I have to see Kid Rock live.
Oh hell yes, boy.
The first album I ever owned was Millennium by the Backstreet Boys. So
man, I've seen them live, boy.
Yeah.
I took Courtney to that, and it was fucking funny. They were like humping in all these old ladies' faces, bro. That sounds awesome.
Great. Yeah, let's go.
I mean, Nick, whatever his name is, every boy band of the '90s had a guy named Nick in. Nick Cannon, Nick Carter, Nick Lachey.
You're not wrong.
I mean, I was there, bro. I am Nick's dick tick.
Yeah, you said something a second ago where you said, do you remember? I didn't know for sure.
I was going to say, do you guys remember when we went to that studio I had at my grandma's garage and recorded that Kid Rock cover, and I played I'll Fly Away on the acoustic guitar, and then we harmonized it? That was fucking fantastic.
I've got
that. Was fun.
I'll splice that into the podcast.
Yeah, you totally
that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And this is for the questions that don't have any answers. The midnight glances and the topless dances. The can of freaks gone back to Seabird. The G's and the 40s and the chicks with beepers. The northern lights and the southern comfort. And it don't even matter if your veins are punctured. All the crackheads, the critics, the cynics, and all my heroes at the methadone clinic. All you bastards in the IRS for the crooked cops and the colored debts. For the shots of Jack and the cats and men. Half pints of world and the fifth strip. For the hookers are drinking out Hollywood. And for my birds in the world that's hard to slip. Say it's all good and it's all in fun. They're getting a bit and trying to love someone. Ball with the ball, the bang, the bang, diggy, 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 said the boogie, said I'm jumping the boogie. Ball with the ball, the bang, the bang, diggy, 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 said the boogie, said I'm jumping the boogie. Ball with the ball, the bang, the bang, diggy, 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 said the boogie, said I'm jumping the boogie. Ball with the ball, the bang, the bang, diggy, 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 said the boogie, said I'm jumping the boogie.
On 100 spokes for Jesus. Yeehaw! Speaking of which, several fans that have watched my solo streams are already familiar with Poop Shoot Blues.
Yes!
I guess I should have mentioned before we started that these are the guys who made that song possible.
Hello, everyone. It is I.
Mr. Blues.
Doth now hath thou returned.
And then whenever we did the music that went with the trailer, the channel trailer, Jaeger did that, and Jaeger set it to some joke lyrics that I had come up with from 1,000 years ago. You can also find that on the Patreon.
Manifest Destiny.
Yep.
No way. I
Man.
need to ask Jaeger this. Do you remember 18 million?
18 million dicks in my ass.
Yeah, that's not something you forget, but I needed to know.
Oh man, I still remember that guitar riff that he played for it. I'm pretty sure it
got
was
up
Rock
on the nail.
Lobster.
It was.
It was like bum 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 bum. He was like 18 million dicks in Kyle's ass, and he was pointing at Alan. He was like dicks in Kyle's ass, dicks in Kyle's ass.
It's like a rock
Man.
lobster riff or whatever.
Yeah, it was like super distorted, and he was playing it like drop tune, but I don't think it was drop, so it was in standard, but it was going jump, 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 bum.
Okay, I got
It
you.
was great. It was funky.
It was
Funky boy.
funky.
And I could do an entire episode of just shit that happened in Mark's house, man. The first time his dad walked in, and we thought he was working all night, so we stole his pot stash. And dude, we were in like 6th or 7th grade, and it was the two of us, and like, dude, we clouded this entire room up. It was smoke city, and all of a sudden, his dad walks in. We just see hands fanning through the dope smoke, and he was like, "Are you guys smoking dope?" And then Mark, or whoever, they called him Justin, like throws the bong out the window, and then his dad got mad because we broke his bong, not because we smoked his pot. It was first time for everything. We stole his car that night.
Artemis asks, was this the 90s or the zeros? And zeros, right? We're not
There's
old enough for this to have
definitely
been
zeros.
90s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think it was because it would definitely be in the 2000s, early 2000s,
Yes.
probably 2002,
Probably 2000.
2003.
Yeah.
I knew this podcast would be sort of a marbling of the actual topic and just nostalgia, and that's all right with me, man, because like
Yeah.
a lot of the people who listen to this podcast just want to know more about this crew of people, and I've been very excited for the inevitable appearance of you two on here because I've explained so many times that like our sense of humor is just sort of a melting pot of all the people we've known, and I was like, there's a whole second side of my family that you guys don't know about, and they're way weirder than me.
Fucked, bruh.
Yeah, dude, we're weird as fuck. That's for sure.
I would appreciate it, and you don't have to, but I would appreciate it if you would share the llama story.
I don't know what sound I just heard, but it sounded awesome.
That was my laugh. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh man, it was like, it was out there. So the llama story. Are you talking about ordering the?
Yes.
The alpaca?
Yes.
So I have told quite a few people this, and there are a lot of people that don't believe me.
I don't care if it's true or not. I just
Yeah.
do not give a shit.
I can totally understand why. So the story reads as follows. So I'm young, and my grandmother would like usually get mad at me for everything, but she would also just randomly give me her credit card information to order shit. So I was like, okay, this lady hates me, so I'm gonna buy some shit. And around the time there were the commercials, I love alpaca.com, and there was also a phone number. So I used the website on her gateway PC, and I donated money towards bringing home an alpaca. And eventually, her husband, who was a jackass, was out in his yard when a truck pulls up with a huge beast in it. Now, originally in the story, when I was a kid, I told people that it ran around town. It ran around the yard, but it eventually got caught. But I told my friends it never got caught. Sorry for busting everyone's bubble. But it was running around the streets of the town for at least 2 hours. So they pull this up and they unload this cage, and it's a huge cage, bro. And there's an alpaca in. And when the guy's trying to get it out, it immediately runs, because there across the street from their house was like a lumber loading place, Tiffin Appliance, where they would do appliances, and they had building supplies and shit like that. And when the lumber smacked, it got scared, so it took off and immediately started running. And the dude just yelled. Okay, I will not say my grandpa because that's not. But he was like, "Is that a goddamn camel?" And then it just takes off running through his back of his woods, and it keeps going left. And dude, it ended up pretty close to the school is where they caught it. So, yeah, I told all my friends it was like rampant for years.
Yeah,
basically
that
like
it was still
Sasquatch,
living
but a llama.
feral in the fucking woods. That's the only part that made it to where I think a lot of people weren't sure to believe it or not. But I get it.
Yeah, well, I understand that. One time we had this party in Chase's dad's shed, and I thought I saw a bat, and I told everybody it was shining blue. So, you know, I exaggerated a few things.
That was actually Rhett's birthday party. that was not a toot fest.
God, where was that?
That was at the high school that Rhett used to live near.
Oh, okay, in Vina.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, sorry. So many things happen between all of those dates.
Yeah.
I still don't know where that alligator mask is, but what I would do for
Oh
it.
man, dude, I found I know where it is on Amazon. I've nearly ordered it like 6 times.
Swear to God, you link that shit to me and I'll buy it.
Yeah, it's like $20. Hold on, I'll find it right fucking now.
Heck, baby.
So Artemis asks, alligator mask. The first film that we made together was well before
Born.
Bro Up, and it was like a VHS camcorder film that we did because we had a it wasn't even an alligator mask. It was like a raptor mask, and Kyle wore the mask. Am I right?
Yeah.
Kyle wore the mask, and initially the video doesn't really have a narrative. Like, it opens up and we're pranking our friend Mark because of all the people that slept over, he's the only one still fucking asleep. So we're like,
Everybody else was gone.
we're trying to like scare him awake and be like, "Ah," and like exploding fucking like fireworks in his face and shit.
Ow.
And finally he gets pissed off and leaves, and we begin the narrative story of how like this farmer Stan is trying to track down this living alligator beast.
Suck my dad.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was Jaeger. Are you looking at Ticket Parks?
Yeah.
All right there it is.
Oh, daddy in a hat.
And this is identical
Bro,
to
that's
the
it.
exact mask.
Oh my God, that's it. I'm about to. God, but it's $10.50 shipping.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that.
Jesus.
Oh, it's something to take my boner away. Ooh, but they
But
got
that's
good
it,
ones down
dude. That's
there.
the mask.
That's it. I'm gonna add that to my list, brother.
So
Brother.
we did that video, and we eventually did a sequel and lent out the original and never got it back. But I know in the sequel that we filmed, at one point, our friend Keith is just wandering around the woods and fucking falls off a cliff. Like, just straight up.
I know exactly where that is now. Like that's all covered up, but I could take you and show you exactly where he fell off that. Like,
The thing
cliff.
is, that's not the first time Keith has disappeared over a cliff. Because one time we were camping in the woods and we all got super trashed, and we all tried to squeeze into one tent. Well, Keith got sick and he tried to get out the tent door and he tripped and he fell all the way down like a big ass. I would not say ravine, but it was definitely not a little hill. Like, he kept rolling and he ended up landing in shit. It was pretty cool.
And he puked all over himself. And then he fell out of that tree. Do you remember that?
And
He
then
fell out of that tree.
He fell out of a tree and hit his face and managed to come alive for just a moment to drink his beer, and then he passed out.
Yeah, he was gone.
Oh shit. So yeah, to answer your question, there are 2 before Bro Op films somewhere in the wild, not porn for fuck's sake, but one of them is just missing.
Well.
And then the second one, I think Chase intentionally hid because he had accidentally recorded over his parents' anniversary video.
No, it
Oh,
wasn't my parents'
no.
anniversary. But it was one of our like vacation videos that Dad had recorded, like some like fireworks on the beach or something that they were
shit.
looking for, and I was just
That was probably way better stuff too.
I did something like that too as a child, Chase. So,
yeah.
yeah.
But I was just like, yeah, fuck, I don't know what happened to that thing.
I don't know.
You got me,
Alligator
Dad.
movie over it, that's for sure.
I wish I could find it though, because I love fireworks. Dang, I'm just bummed.
But yeah. So we have no shortage of these stories, but if I can, I would like to possibly segue us into stories about live performances by Yeager and Scott, because they were in a couple of different bands together, and I attended a lot of these. This was a big chunk of my life. There was like a 3-year period of time where I couldn't find a job out of college, and I was just sad. And I like the only thing that gave me any happiness, like literally, I'm dead serious. The only thing that like kept me going was comic books and you guys, because like
Means a lot.
because like you already knew that like I was getting food stamps and spending my paycheck on comic books and like barely surviving on grocery money. Like my entire paycheck was going to comic books, and I was just like malnourishing myself. But the only thing that I did outside of that was I went to your shows. So what was the first band that you guys were in together?
Oh, that band was called Apart From You.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Long
2003 or
last
4, something like that. Yeah, long last year
Apart From You
was the first. And then
yeah,
a lot of our bands had
which
a lot of
we-
the same people with different names and slight different sounds. So
yeah, we never like stayed together long. I mean, we did later on after we got older, or at least like, you know, I used 2 bands over the course of the last like 7, and
Yeah.
you know, those are the bands that I like traveled with and stuff. But then it was just like the same dudes, and then we would have a couple of people that would just be like, bro, I just can't play right now, and instead of putting it on hold, we would just break the band up until football season was over, start the band back, keep none of the songs, and change the name. It's like, bruh.
yeah.
Boy, who does that?
Well, what's a like a show that you remember, Jesse? Like, what's one that like pops out that you were like, oh, that one was fun?
Well, I know the first time I ever saw you guys perform together was Stay Strong Cannonball. And I saw you guys perform in like the recreational shed of a local church.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because that was in like what mentally I'm regarding as Stay Strong Cannonball 1. Because like
The first rendition.
Yeah, because like it went through essentially what was a like a theme shift. And I can let you guys talk about that. I don't want to talk about it for you, but I remember it pretty vividly. And I remember being really impressed with what I saw and really enjoying it. And continued to watch you guys from there.
Yeah. So when we first started, man, I don't even remember like what the kind of music that we wrote. It was like pop. It was like pop punk, right? It was like punk.
It was pretty close. If anyone has ever listened to For Your Strong, Set Your Goals, Newfound Glory, it was kind of around what all of those bands were putting out at the time. It just wasn't as tight. I mean, you know, I was the drummer because when Stay Strong started, I had been in a band for, let's see, probably about 2 or 3 years, Skywalker. And Skywalker was the first band I had that actually started to bring in revenue and kind of get some kind of attention from people other than just, you know, and I don't mean disrespect, but like, you know, other than just like your friends coming to the gigs.
Yeah,
you know,
of
not
course,
that there's anything wrong with that, because you want all your friends at your gigs, but you know, a lot of times with your friends, you don't want to charge your friend for a shirt. You don't want to charge your friend to come in because they're your best friends. But these other people that you don't know, fuck them, they can pay. But you need to get more people. So with Skywalker, it kind of started rolling, but around the end, it's honestly that typical, you know, metal band story. Is just everybody started getting too fucked up, you know, and some of us got out of it, or at least kind of slowed down on it, while the rest, you know, we'd show up for band practice and there would be 9-10 people just fucked up, passed out on the couch that we didn't know who they were, you know. So it was like, bro, like I got to keep playing music, but I got to do something else. So we started doing Stay Strong. Pretty much the last show that Skywalker played, our last night, the next night Stay Strong had our first gig, you know. So there was like no shift in that. It was immediately from 2007 to 2009 it was Skywalker, and then literally not even 24 hours passed and I've started another band that I would be in for 5, 6, 7 years, you know. So it's crazy. But man, that first show we played that you were talking about, that was nuts, bro. It was
a good one. And then you guys played another show that I really enjoyed that was in a church. Like it was like
yeah, that was cool.
That was quite a good show.
Yeah, that was good. I remember that one.
And I remember.
I'm sorry, go for it.
No, you were just starting. And one particular story that I'd like to share, because a lot of the stories that are vivid in my head aren't actually of being at shows; they're of being at practices. Because like you guys were still.
Oh God.
I have, you know where I'm going. I have remarked to you guys a couple of times that I wish I had more experience with starting bands with friends like you guys do, because I know that the teamwork dynamic is the same as trying to run a YouTube channel, because I ran into a lot of the same problems that you guys did, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to work with friends and how to like conflict resolution with friends. And so at the time, you guys were practicing, but at the time your practices consisted of just like disorganized jam sessions essentially. And
someone would have a riff finally after like an hour of playing Metallica while everyone else was trying to do something else. I'd be like, oh, let's try this riff, guys.
And I remember I was probably tighter with Scott than anybody else at the time. And Scott was kind of like talking to me separately. And it was just like, man, I'm not even really getting to practice. They're just like playing Metallica. Yeah. And I was like, well, what would help? And he was like, well, if they would turn the rest of it down so that I could hear my own vocals, it would help. And so this is me like pre-medication, still trying to learn how to be confident. So I walk in there.
I've never learned that. So
I walk in there where it's Kyle and another friend, Kirby, and I was just like, hey, y'all, you need to turn your shit down so that Scott can hear his vocals. And they were like,
oh my God, I remember this.
They were like, oh, really? Oh, they were all making fun of me. And I was just like, all right, you know what? Here's my dick. And I unzipped my pants and just whipped my penis out. And I just said, turn down the music.
So we were like, yeah, whatever, bro. Whatever. You're good. Just bring that thing back over here.
What's the funniest part that I don't think you guys even remember is like the moment after that was said and done, a couple of like young girls came in because Kirby was in the habit of like inviting underage girls. So.
Because it's
they lived with him, I think.
Yeah. No, it was the big girls that lived with him. And by big, I mean they were like 7'5", bro. They looked like Andre the Giant and fucking the Undertaker lived there.
Okay.
What was it you called them?
Boosas.
Boosas.
Okay, and I remember this too because like you guys had your stacks, right? In this little house.
Yes.
And the PA system was one fucking speaker
that did 25 watts.
Yeah, so it was just like I remember very well.
My amp alone was running 100 and Kirby's was running 100. So that's 200 watts of just guitar. You add the bass in there, like you don't even need the drums at that point.
It's one thing that go ahead.
The neighbors kept calling the cops, and we were like, "These neighbors are fucking dicks, bro." It's like it's okay. Maybe we were.
And they would have like 8 or 9 dudes out in the front yard just smoking cigs. I get it now.
Drinking beer.
But yeah,
I remember waking up on their couch one time, hungover, and one of the girls that lived there, who I had never met, but I've been staying there for like 2 weeks. She was just crying, dude. She was crying in this chair, and I just kind of look up, and I was like, "What am I gonna do?" So me being the idiot that I am, I was like, "Hey man, you okay?" And she was like, "My boyfriend just broke up with me." And I said, "Oh," and I got up, grabbed my beer, and walked out. Just sat on the porch. I was like, "Okay, I don't want to. No, I'm good. I don't want to talk."
I lived right down the street from this house too, so that was kind of cool. But,
that was a dark place, though. But I want to be very
We
specific.
only practiced there like 3 or 4 times though. Like at that house.
Because you kept inviting those girls over there. So we were like, bruh, like, we're out of here. These kids.
Yeah, we were just like, this sucks. We don't practice with other fuckers in here. No.
Yeah.
Fuck that. It was really awkward. It was really awkward.
Jesse's penis.
It's funny, too.
I just remember jamming sometimes, and then they were like sitting on the couch, just like going on with their lives on their phones. And it was just really awkward. Yeah.
You can't help but feel like inconvenience.
Yeah.
Like they might not tell you to get the fuck out, but some part of me kind of feels bad. They're over here trying to move over this emotional mountain, and I'm over here like, hey,
I felt like shit. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I was just like, these girls are probably thinking, fuck these kids. Get them out of our house.
Idiot. Why does he live here? The fuck away from my family. Yeah, they had a family gathering one time at that house with their whole family, and me and Kirby walked in and we're just like, oh, hey. And they were like, ugh. What scab?
Who are these scabs?
I don't even know why I was staying there, man. Because like he and I weren't like super.
What we did then.
My home was fine. There were no skanks
never
there.
At home, man. I basically lived with Kyle and Jesse, and
yeah.
I was never at home. No reason. Had a perfectly great home, but just didn't really. I hated being at home.
Well, I actually reference those days a lot if I ever hop into voice chat in the Discord, people will hop in, but then they will apologize for not saying anything. And I'll just be like, yeah, y'all have never had like a hang session that I'm used to. Like it was just sort of commonplace for us to all come to the same person's apartment and just
hang out,
occupy that same space. Like
Till,
you are not
in the morning.
obligated in any way to say a word.
No, we were just family, man. Like really.
We used to do that and just play Zelda, like different Zelda games in the same house.
I remember
hang
when we got Club F going back up again. You know, we had the pool table, and like every night, dude, we were going out there. We would play pool, we would play poker, and then we would also we had like two. We had a Nintendo 64 and some other system
Probably the
that was
Dreamcast,
going
but
at
I
the
don't
same
know.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
So we had
Dude, I loved that
like
place.
because I know they kept playing
Place
Star
was great.
Fox, bro. They
Yeah.
always
Dude,
played Star Fox.
I fucking miss Club F. Something bad.
Yeah, man.
Fun,
Which is
bro.
the
That
whole
was great.
reason. The whole reason this podcast is named that, because it
Yeah.
feels like it at times.
I miss it too. You know, like I feel like in a weird way you guys have ruined me, because like I have thought a lot of times that top period of time living in our hometown when I thought I was the most depressed, now I'm just like, if I could only have those days back. Like, and that's because really the only there were two key reasons I was depressed. Number one, I needed medicine. Like I needed help.
Same.
Like I
Same.
just needed help mitigating my constant resentment for other people. Like I was just always angry at everybody else for stupid reasons. And then the other thing was just I felt lonely because I didn't have anybody. And you know, now I'm fucking married. It's great. It's beautiful. I've got my brain in order, but it's so hard to stay connected with my family now.
Well, and when you're younger, you don't realize how perfect you have it. So that's just growing up. So
Yeah.
Well, I
That's
mean,
how that
me
shit goes,
too.
I
Like,
guess.
I would always, you know, put myself in this mindset that mine wasn't as good. Which I mean, there were parts of my life growing up that kind of sucked dick. But like, you know, I
I
was
was
just be like, oh,
lazy,
my life's so bad.
so-
Yeah, I was just fucking lazy, bro. It was procrastination. Get a job. I don't want to. I'm in a band, and it's like, well, your band's barely paying one of your bills.
We could
so
still have
I'm gonna
jobs,
get another
but
job.
we didn't
No,
want
bro.
to do that. So
I just back then I just wanted to get high. I mean, that's what I did. You know,
Yeah.
depression.
Oh, I mean, you know,
Bands.
I wasn't into drugs, but I was doing the same thing. I was running away from my problems by trying to like essentially surround myself with what was making you guys happy. So, you know, like basically anytime you guys were going out of town for a show, I was coming. And I know a big piece of that was also I didn't know how to meet girls, so I would always kind of be hopeful that I might be able to meet girls, but it's
not at a gig.
It's not like I knew how to talk to them at the time. Like, you know, people on Twitch have been asking me to share like embarrassing sex stories, and it becomes abundantly clear why I never met anybody at a show.
There are a lot of things that I experienced playing in bands, or at least still staying with like Stay Strong, like playing with Scott. We got to play a few gigs with the original lineup of the band, and they were super fun. They were super tight. But I think one of my favorite parts, man, was when we played that coffee shop, and you actually got up there and sang with us. That was pretty cool.
I really enjoyed
remember
that
that?
too. I do remember that.
Was that in Fulton?
That was pretty neat. Yeah.
Okay, that's the only show I can remember, guys. Like that may be the only one I ever went to, but that's the only one I remember.
We did a lot, but after at a certain point, Scott left, and when he left, it was quickly after that multiple members were kind of shifting around. Just because I wanted to still do it, we had gotten a good kind of basis, you know, and people wanted to hear our shit, you know. So I was like, I mean, I'm gonna keep doing it, you know. And but once we kind of swapped, we ended up becoming somewhat of a mainstay in the underground punk scene, like the more hardcore punk. So our sound kind of shifted, and we played hundreds. That first year, it was almost like I think 100, I think combined, and it was really fun. Or maybe it was the first 2 years combined, because I don't think we ever played like 101. But we started playing around so much with all these underground punk bands. But the thing is all the bands that we were playing with were so nichey, and so I guess in their own kind of genre niche, I guess you would say, that, you know, a lot of my friends didn't come out because all the bands that we're playing with, you know, a lot of my friends wouldn't have enjoyed, because fuck, I didn't even enjoy, you know. And I mean no disrespect if any of those dudes ever end up listening to this, but it's, you know, there's just some stuff like I ain't trying to go to a punk show and listen to black metal, you know, and especially if it's crappy black metal, like at least be good at what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know.
What do you? No, go ahead.
I mean, I say, it was really for me, you talking about like practices. For me, my favorite part of being in a band is like not necessarily the show itself, but traveling to the show and setting it up. I loved setting up my rig. I didn't ever, which we were never like big enough that we had a bunch of roadies and stuff, but anytime we did have roadies and stage help, I would always do my shit by myself, just because that's the part that I loved. It was like putting it together. But I mean, traveling to those was so much fun. Just all the bullshit we talked about and stupid songs we would sing, like Manifest Destiny. Just jerk off humor is my favorite.
This is a great enough transition, because you had said earlier that you'd like to talk about tour stories and things like that.
Transition us, daddy. Traveling is a whole nother beast in itself. A lot of times when you start a band with your friends, you're like, let's just start a band. You get a name, you get some songs, you get ready to play a gig. And the only thing in your mind is becoming a successful musician and touring. Or at least then that was the mindset. I would be so pissed if I had to tour again. Oh God, it was the worst. But certain parts kind of stand out that are good. Once you actually get to traveling to your gigs, you realize that being in a band is much more than 4 guys eating Cheetos, smoking dope, drinking beer, and playing some music. You know what I'm saying? It becomes more of a job, not a hobby. And that's where a lot of people start to flake out. Not in a bad way, but it's like, bro, it really is a job.
Yeah.
And you're traveling, or at least the crowds that we played to, and the way that our gigs worked, at least through Stay Strong traveling and with Green River Killers when we traveled after that, it was going gig to gig and hoping you made enough money to go to the gig. So I mean that kind of sucks, especially when you're in a band that some people know but not enough people know. It gets to be scary. You can show up to a gig an hour away from home and play for 15 people, and then your next show has to be in Oklahoma, so you have to drive for like 18 hours, and you basically go off 10 people that paid at the door and probably pay $5, so you got $50 to get your vehicle, maybe multiple, because when we had to do it, our vehicles broke down, so we had to take 3 cars. And we went all the way to Oklahoma, where we've never been, and there ended up being 200 kids there. So it's kind of like hit or miss. You don't know what you're going to get unless you're a solidified band. So touring, which I know I'm kind of just taking this and just not shutting the fuck up, but
no, people are
touring,
like
as far as an underground band goes, is if you have I wouldn't say the guts, but I would say if you have the endurance to actually do it, it's definitely a life-changing experience. I never did like world tours, but I've traveled to so many states to play for so few people. God, it was a headache, but it was also fun. Scott, do you have any traveling memoirs?
I never really toured with you guys or anything, but we did play a lot of shows that were out. So
yes,
yeah, I always loved the trip there. It was probably the best time. Or honestly, after you're done and you're on your way home, we had some of the best.
Where to eat?
Yeah, like go to Taco Bell or wherever and have the best conversations on the way home, and then just stay up until the sun came up. We were just, yeah, it's
man.
The music's great, but just hanging out is the best. Yeah, and if you can get along with people like that and write music and stuff, then yeah, it was great. So.
Artemis in chat asks, real question, is there a lot of sex with a band / traveling?
No.
As far as our band goes, fuck no.
We honestly didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
We just wanted to hang out with each other. Could we have?
It was
Probably,
never in my mind.
But we never even thought about it. We really didn't. We just wanted to hang out with each other. So
even when like people didn't have girlfriends, it was never any of our. Well, there was probably like 1 or 2 band members that were like, I have to go find some boobs. But with the rest of us, man,
we girls a lot because I was so. But other than that,
I lost girls for bands. So that's it for me. I don't even remember half of their names. Mom. Sorry. Fuck.
Yeah, I was super emo kid, so but it was fun, man. And
speaking of Scott being an emo kid, and probably the worst experience that I've had touring, the last tour that I ever did, and it was really the tour that made me decide this is fucking garbage and I'm fucking done. The last tour that Green River Killers did, I've actually still got the little tour pass right here on the wall. It wasn't super long. It was like, I think it was span over 2 weeks. And we leave out on a Friday, right? And the first gig is in Huntsville. So not super far. But the next one is in St. Louis. And that's when the ice storm happened in like 2016. And the Wednesday before, the van breaks down on Zach, our drummer. So we have to do the entire tour in a Toyota Camry, a 1997 Camry. And I think as soon as we hit St. Louis, it's completely iced over. The roads are shut down, but we got confirmation the gig was still happening. I tell Zach to turn on his defrost or at least his heater because my feet are frozen, and he tells me that he doesn't have either of those things in his car. Zach does something that is called hypermiling, right? And with hypermiling, you remove certain things from your car to get better gas mileage. So this dude, the weather that we saw on this like maybe 12 or 13 stop tour, we saw completely iced over. We saw covered with snow. We saw 2 tornadoes. We saw torrential downpours. And then we also saw a part of the country that while this was happening, it was super dry, and it was also fucking terrible. But he had one windshield wiper, so I could never see the road. So I was freaking out because I'm a backseat driver. And I'm just like, this is fucking stupid. And Scott can attest to this because one time we played a gig and it started raining. He couldn't see, but he kept flooring the fucking car to go home. And I got
and
pissed.
he keeps
said,
that one wiper for like reduction.
He said it's more aerodynamic. And
yeah,
I was like, dude,
one wiper. No shit.
You've saved like 50 cents in 7 years, you fool. Get me off,
It's
bro.
so true, though. That's so true. Like, come on.
So the whole time we're playing, every place we go, we stopped at like Dick's or Academy or something like that, so I could get some more slippers and socks just to keep piling these socks on because it got super fucking cold. And then we end up down in Louisiana and we play. And when we get there, they said, okay, before you guys play, there's a burlesque show. And I have no idea what that is. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I walk in to see the opening act, and it's just a bunch of people with no shirts on with pasties over their nipples. And I'm like, bro, my wife is going to kick my ass. So I immediately call her and tell her about it. And I walk out. Zach's eating food. That's all he did the entire time. But as soon as we get done playing, we put our gear in the back. And then that place, the only decent weather we had the entire tour, the guy says, hey, you guys got to move all of those amps. And I was like, why? And he said, our bathroom's overflowing. And there was like shit, like up, like it was on my amp. Just feces and water. And I was like, fuck this tour. It was terrible. But then we got to finish the last of the tour out in Florida, and everybody had this grand scheme to rent mopeds and make a funny music video. But Zach is afraid of anything with 2 wheels. So we had to put like an extra $100 into it and get like a little like 3-wheeler thing. We just look so stupid. If you want to see it, it's on YouTube.
Cal has
we
videos,
documented the whole tour. Yeah.
I can link to that too if you like.
Yeah, we've had a great time. Gigs, man, when the gigs are good, I mean, you're on cloud 9.
Yeah.
You know, it don't matter if it's I think I think it was Hud that said it earlier when he said, like Zach Wild said, it don't matter if you're playing like 10 people or 10,000, you got to give it 110%. And the fact is, when you get to these gigs, whether it's 100 people, 1,000 people, or one person that is into it, I mean, you got to realize that's somebody in another state that is just jamming your shit that has never met you. So even if it's one person, like that's a pretty big impact to me, you know. So that's what kind of made it worthwhile.
Well, there's a lot of strange parallels here between like music performance and what we've been trying to do for Bro Up for the past several years, and that like it does often feel like a hopeless like endeavor, but like you still try to give it your all. Like Chase and I constantly have that conversation. That's exactly what you're describing. It's like you still have to try to give your best even when only a handful of people show up to the stream. Yeah. So like it's very
gotta give it
applicable. Yeah, very applicable parallels.
And the thing is, when it comes to podcasts, which we've had a couple of episodes where we talk about it on the Dad Bod podcast, when we first started doing it, it was, you know, we were like, this is the easy way out. That was our first episode ever. That's what it was titled, The Easy Way Out. It was funny. We're making a podcast. We're doing the easy way out. We're going to sit at home and talk into microphones for our job, and it's going to be easy. But then you get down into editing the podcast, mixing the podcast, mastering it, making it sound good, you know, changing this, changing that for the next episode. And it it's a job in itself.
Yeah, it becomes ever like several of our podcasts, especially from the old series, but even one from the new series. Like, I don't know how to master something. I'm just doing my best to not ear rape somebody that really wants to listen to it. But like,
You're pretty much just putting compressors and limiters.
that's
and then
exactly
you're
what
good.
I'm doing. Well, that's what
Yep.
I'm doing. Yeah, yeah.
That's really all you got to do
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
And smart call on that.
I've enjoyed the podcast now. I mean, obviously, I think that our old podcast, we were actually trying to make it more formal than it needed to be. And, you know, just like a lot of other things that we've attempted, that was largely my fault. And honestly, if I haven't told you this, I will now. I don't really listen to podcasts, but a lot of like what I aim for with ours is just based on listening to yours, like, and just being
really?
like, yeah, because I'm just like, yeah, they are fucking perfectly comfortable in this element. That's what I want to aim for from now on. Just being as genuine as we can, and it's still sounding good and not being boring. And another big piece of that was finding the setting in Audacity that lets me delete silence gaps. So that was helpful.
Oh yeah.
You
Can you
heathen
quack?
piece of shit. Can you quack like a duck when you suck? God, I haven't thought about that in a while.
And
Well,
shit
you're
on my
welcome.
chest for good luck. Dude, funniest thing I ever heard in my goddamn life was when Daniel Tosh featured that song on his segment, and he said, "I'm pretty sure they got paid in heroin." It was one of the best things in the world.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I want to talk about living in the South. Yeah. Living in the South as a heavy metal or punk rock musician is one of the worst things you could ever do in your life.
Rough. Yeah.
Because no one
You got
will
better luck
ever
coming out as gay.
understand it. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, you're
with
right.
metal.
Yeah, especially with metal because of
Thing
the connotation.
With the metal, when we would play Skywalker, it was a Metallica ripoff, right? So we would have tons of like young Thrasher kids like super into it, but we also had tons of their parents. They were just like, "Fuck yeah, play that Metallica song again," and it's like, "We got other songs," and they're like, "Yeah, but they're not good. Play that fucking Metallica song again." So we'd be like, "Okay, same song," and everybody kind of liked it. But then when we got into like deathcore, and I would play like grind music and like super nichey, you know, your typical band, you know, man, you would have like some dedicated fans, but pretty much anyone you handed a flyer to would tell you to suck a cat dick and just kick you out. It was bad. I mean, one time we went around town putting flyers on windows, and all the ink leaked off the windows on people's cars. It was bad.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but way worth it. Not my car, not my problem. That's what I say.
Please tell me you're referencing drinking out of cup.
Drinking
Do you know
out of a
what that
cup.
is?
No, what's that?
Okay. Never mind. I'll show it to you later. It's something you would like.
Hit me up on my premium snap.
Yeah, I'll hit you up on your OnlyFans.
Well,
One night only.
Scott Yeager, what's something that you wanted to make sure that you talked about on this podcast before you left, if you can remember?
Scott, I'm gonna let you start.
Man, I don't know. We were gonna.
We're having to get serious now, so I don't know.
That song we recorded. We could talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Which song are we talking about?
We haven't really told a whole lot of people about this. This is kind of the first drop we've actually done of it. The song I sent you.
Yeah, I'm going to do it in a second. Yeah.
So before this whole quarantine fiasco started, I was on paternity leave because we had my daughter, and I say we like I actually did something, but no, Courtney had my daughter, and I was very, very thankful. Good Lord, what another podcast of topics. That was insane, by the way. If you guys have never seen that, Scott, I know you have. God,
Yeah.
that was awesome.
Yeah, it is cool.
Pretty much what I did there, Artemis. I just put it all in a turkey baster and squeezed it. What can I say? So
What's that?
what the hell? So while I was off, I realized that, you know, I'm pretty close to moving up in my job, and I want to stay. You know, obviously I'm going to stay at my job when this is all over, but they sent me back on a quarantine leave, you know, so I'm still not at work. So I've been off pretty much since December.
Damn.
I worked maybe about a month, you know, throughout February, but then they sent me home. So since I've been off, I've realized that even though I don't want to travel anymore, I still have to have some kind of creative outlet for music. And I sit here because I've got a studio basically now in the back room that I converted. And I've just been mixing and mastering music and getting, because I always did it, but I wanted to hone in on my skills and get better. Well, I've always talked to Scott when I would have these riffs and I just didn't like my vocals on it, or I thought I was being stupid. I'd be like, Scott, sing this song. Scott, write lyrics for this song. He'd be like, okay. And we just kind of talked about it. Well, then finally, Scott, I think you came to me first and you were like, let's just start a band and you show me recording stuff and let's open up a studio. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And we actually decided, this is a point in our life that we can do this now. So I'm sitting here showing Scott all this stuff. He's got a whole new setup so he can do this stuff. And as we're doing these songs, we realize let's just do this one more time, but do it right, and not travel, but just put out records,
just record songs. Yeah.
And pretty much the song that we sent to you so you can show it, like this is going to be the first drop it's got, but pretty much Scott and I put a band together that we're going to put pretty much our musical everything in.
Okay. Awesome.
And that's pretty much what we want you guys to hear.
All right,
Scott,
so
you want to talk about it a little bit?
It's a good song. I don't remember what we named it, but it's a good song. And
I don't want to get
wrote
up.
Another one. Yeah, that's it. I don't want to get up is the name of the song. But he wrote another one that he sent to me that's a little slower, and that'll be a cool one too. That I'm going to start working on the vocals pretty soon.
The genres are bouncing around. Obviously, with me writing guitar, or at least most of the guitars, I've definitely got a punk, thrash, grunge background. But the main purpose of this record is obviously let those influences kind of shine through, but like any band would say, take your sound and mold it into what you want. So you're going to hear super fast parts, you're going to hear heavy parts, you're going to hear, there's one song that I text Scott at like 3 a.m. a couple of days ago, and I was like, bruh, I know you're asleep, and I know we said we weren't going to write any more songs for a little bit, but I just channeled my inner Sting, and I wrote a new Police song if the Foo Fighters played it, Or no, I said
it's really fucking good too. Like I'm telling you right now, that's going to be a motherfucking banger.
It's a banger. Okay.
That's going to be a great song.
And it's like we said, we were going to do like 2 or 3 songs, put out a couple singles, maybe an EP, and just kind of gradually do it. But I've got everything like as a template, and I've got like all my gear. I've got my amps in the room. I've got one set up in the closet now. I've got effects processors, all kinds of shit. So it's easy for me to record. So what we said we were going to stop with 2, I just finished what was 9. So it's like the 9th song already, and which Scott hadn't heard all of them, but it's just I keep tracking them and I'm just numbering them and not naming them. So right now we have songs 1 through 9.
Yeah.
All right.
Time's moving slow, begging it to go. I die to see the sunrise in a child's eyes. Yeah. Time's moving slow, begging it to go. I'd love to see the sunset from my deathbed. Yeah. And I don't wanna get up. Tom's on to him like that. He's just a kid, never had
That was I Don't Want to Get Up by the boys and boys of the Dad Bod podcast. Them boys. I really enjoyed it. And I always enjoy listening to your stuff. You guys have always been very talented. I enjoy vocals from the both of you, as a matter of fact. And it's always a delight to hear the stuff that you guys have created. It really is.
Well, thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Yeah, thank you. It was pretty much a shock. I was like, Scott, I want you to write all these vocals, and he's like, okay, cool. And then immediately I'm like, okay, here's these lyrics I wrote. And then Scott was like, okay, well, here's the ones I wrote. And I was like, well, those are so much better. And I keep doing that with like every song. I'm like, hey, Scott, I added this part, but now I've at least started saying, I know we're probably not going to use it, so we'll just kind of take it out. But I just want you to hear it.
It reminds me, and
we do what we do.
We'll have to wrap this up pretty quickly, but one more thing that I want to mention while we're thinking about it is it reminds me of a time that I was at one of your shows, and I don't remember exactly how this got started, but it was essentially like, Jesse, I don't remember some of the lyrics to this song. And it's like, who wrote it? And you were like, I did. It's like, can you take a look at this and just come up with something to go in there? I was like, how have you been getting by so long? And he's just like, I've been kind of just moving my mouth.
One time I was in a band that actually got quite a few people following it, and our vocalist never once wrote a lyric. The only line he said in the entire gig was 5th Street for life. That's all he said. And it was just in one breakdown. He never had lyrics, bro. Because I asked him. Yeah, we went to record our band. When we got the vocals, TJ was like, what are your lyrics? And he said, well, I'm just kind of gonna wing it. And dude, TJ was so pissed.
He's just like, probably like, what?
Oh, dude, he was rubbing his head so hard, bro. He was like, you guys came in here and wasted my whole fucking day, and this guy doesn't even have lyrics. What, bro?
Doing that itching thing that he does, takes his hat off, throws it across the room. It was great. I loved it.
Those of you guys listening, I really think that we have just barely broken the ice of what all we could talk to these guys about, but we are out of time. I'm going to echo Huz's sentiment in the chat there. We need to play more games together. We need to hang out more together. And I hope now that you guys have gone through the trouble to really familiarize yourselves with the ins and outs of Discord, that maybe we'll hear more from you guys soon.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I can make this happen anytime, Daddy.
Hell fucking yes. Okay. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Chase, for this particular idea and for managing the opening of it, and I kind of filled in the second half of it. And then what else do we need to say before we slam the thing shut?
Suck my dick!
Fuck off.
Suck my dick!
Hey, for real, though, it was really fun talking to you guys.
I loved it. I love you too.
Yeah.
And like we said, if you enjoyed it, just hit up Dad Bod Podcast.
We might have to have another one with you guys, and where we just tell our old ass dumb stories
Really
about
fine.
Fest and shit.
Sounds good.
Hell yeah. Okay. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. If anybody in this call from my IRL friends wants to hang out on Discord later, I will be on. But for now, I am going to go wipe my ass.
All right.
Got that swamp ass.
Yeah. I'll catch up with you later, too.
I don't know how to leave this.
You're stuck here.
I guess you guys can
Stuck here
hang out
forever.
and listen to me for the next 48 hours. I'm just gonna breathe.
Never.